Oh, okay. Crouch up there. I tried so hard to like hobble around a little. We'll see. How's everyone doing?
Doing good.
Doing okay? What was that?
I have another joke for you.
Yeah?
Okay, so what flag do you use when you're
What flag do you use when
leaving?
what?
The bi flag.
I love it. There's so many awful but good like human sexuality jokes, right? I love it.
Human sexuality dad jokes.
Oh, I have a lot of like dad jokes are like my home. Like I love dad jokes so much, right? I wrote this up here on the board, right? So we don't have class Monday for real. So no class. I put a happy face and a sad face because it's nice to have a long weekend, but I'll obviously just see you all. So yeah, today and then I won't see you Monday, but a nice long weekend. So something to look forward to. Though it is still going to be very hot, which is unfortunate, but we can enjoy the heat somewhere else at home. Maybe. So today what we'll do is we'll move forward, right? We got through chapter 1, we've been through chapter 2 on research. Now we'll get into gender. So our topic for the next 2 classes will be gender development. Then we go to female anatomy and male anatomy. So today we'll focus on this. We'll talk a little bit about the differences and similarities between sex and gender, 2 terms that are often very like misunderstood. So we'll kind of dissect those a little bit. What are some of the things that contribute to our development of a gender identity, some gender stereotypes, and then varieties of gender. So kind of a bunch of things related to gender in this topic. So one big distinction to understand, okay, and these terms are so frequently confused. So we're going to talk about them separately. But when you hit a certain level of like education, you start to talk about how they're directly intertwined with each other. But before you can understand how they're connected, you need to understand how they're separate. Okay, so sex and gender are not the same thing. Okay, they're not. They're often very directly connected to each other, but they're different, right? So when we talk about a person's sex, sex tends to refer to biology and physiology. What sex organs a person possesses, what chromosomes a person possesses. So this is things like anatomy. Do they have a penis or vagina in terms of external genitalia? Do they have ovaries or do they have seminiferous vesicles? What kind of internal and external anatomy does a person possess? That's part of sex, right? Sex is very like biological. What hormones are dominating? Are they dominated by mostly estrogens or mostly testosterones, right? And we all possess a little bit of both, but which one is kind of the more dominant? What chromosomes do they have? Are they XX or XY, right? Or some combination of the two. There are rare conditions where people have kind of an atypical chromosomal presentation. Typically, when we're talking about sex, the terms we use are male, female, or if somebody has like a combination of structures or a combination of chromosomes, we might use the term intersex. It's pretty rare, but it can happen. So sex is biology, okay? This is actually dictated from the moment of fertilization. The moment when an egg and sperm meet, your sexual identity is determined. Whether there's a presence of like a Y or not will determine this, which starts this cascade of like things happening where your anatomy develops, which then release your different hormones. So it's very, very biological. So if somebody asks you your sex and they have terms like masculine, feminine, like androgynous, non-binary, they're not actually asking you sex, they're asking you gender. That's the other side of this. Now your gender is directly impacted by your sex, but they're different. Your gender identity is something that you can choose. Okay, now to an extent, you can choose your sex. You could be born biologically male and go through a surgery to become female. Okay, but your gender is a lot easier to choose. It's something that's way more fluid. This is something that's much more like psychological. It's socially constructed. And it has the potential, at least, to be more fluid. Not for everyone. Some people are very like, I know what my gender is and it stays the same. Other people, it can be a little bit of something that evolves. So here, tons of terms that we can use here. We use typically masculine or feminine. Those are like the two big ones. Someone is either like very masculine, very feminine. We can use things like trans. We can use things like non-binary. There are so many terms, right? Gender queer, there's a million of them. You can decide whatever term you want, but this is something that is very like your identity. It's how you present yourself. It's different than your sex, which is something that is determined biologically at birth. Now, for a lot of people, they overlap. A lot of people are born male and they identify as masculine, right? Or born female, identify as feminine. But you could be born male and identify as trans or as non-binary or as genderqueer or any other variety, right? It's kind of something that's up to you. So your gender identity is how you perceive yourself. And typically it leads to like a gender role that you might develop. And it was interesting because some of you had this last time, right? You were asking people, I think it was your group back there, was saying you were asking people their orientation and they give you like masculine, right? Like we often confuse gender and orientation. They're very different things. Now, super oversimplistic, gender is who you go to bed as, and orientation is who you go to bed with. It's deeper than that, though. It's way more than who you have sex with or don't have sex with. It's way more than that, but that's kind of a simplistic way of remembering it. I saw an interview that I think kind of got at this a little bit. It's a really like good introduction to gender identity. So I'm going to play it for you. It's brief, but it's really recent. And this is something you're comfortable with. It's a lot of different pieces. But gender, I love that they kind of show you the presentation of it, right? The way that you dress is gender. The way that you sit is gendered. The way that you walk can be gendered. Like everything that you do, gender is very much like a presentation, oftentimes of your sex. They oftentimes for people overlap, but not always. And he talked about the genderbread person. This is something that's been used a lot as like a metaphor or an analogy, that it looks at your identity and then it kind of then affects who you're attracted to. So we start to see the interplay between how your gender is influenced by your sex and then can therefore influence your orientation. Like they're all kind of intertwined, which is why I think people tend to confuse them. But your biological sex plays a role in your gender. What you've learned plays a role in your gender, what you grew up with, what you prefer to do, right? A lot of different elements to gender identity. And when we look at that gender identity, I'm sorry, it froze here. Your gender identity is that perception of yourself, okay? How you view yourself. And this can change constantly, right? Like my kids, I watch them go through phases constantly, right? Like my 11-year-old Emma, right? Like last year, she was very like, almost like masculine in the way that she dressed all the time. Like she went through this phase of like everything like really masculine, really like studied like stuff and everything that she wore. Now she's all about like really like short skirts and really like hyper feminine. She's trying to figure it out, right? And sometimes we go through our entire life trying to figure out our identity. And we might go through phases where it's more accepted, so we feel more comfortable, or it's less accepted, so we feel less comfortable, right? I remember when I cut my hair the first time, like my parents would not let me cut my hair my entire life. I had long, super curly hair all the way until I was like 17. And as soon as I could drive, I didn't drive till 17, but at 17, my first place I went with my driver's license was to cut my hair, right? It was like, stop me, I dare you, right? And like I went, busted all off, my parents had a heart attack, my dad cried, and I was like, but I'm so happy with my hair short, because I had like spit curls, people, like really feminine hair, always in a ponytail. And like my gender presentation didn't match my internal concept until I could buzz my head, and then I was so happy, right? And so oftentimes we might not even be allowed to express this the way that we want, depending on the people who surround us or the attitudes of the people in our lives. But there is kind of a gender role for each of these identities, right? What it means to be masculine or male, again, overlapping, what it means to be feminine or female, right? And I have two clips, one of each, right? And they kind of almost like give you that prescription or formula of what it means to fall into each group. And it can be hard for people when they don't, right? Or when maybe they don't match with how you feel about yourself. So let me play these two for you. One is a commercial related to masculinity. And then one is from the Barbie movie related to femininity, was such a great example of those expectations. So let's start with masculinity first. This is like the formula and for femininity, right? And two very different clips with very different energy. But I don't know, any like thoughts or comments or reaction? Anything come up for you as you're watching them? Yeah.
What about the gender roles of these?
Yeah. Yes.
For example, I have a baby back there.
Mhm.
Once my mom saw that I tied her up, she slapped. She's like, "Are you lesbian now?" Just because I had faded back. So like things like that. I mean, like just like because I'm creating just like this.
Yeah.
For creating girls, and besides to like American just like a play or like yeah.
It can be very cultural.
Yeah.
Every culture has a different norm of what's like expected, accepted, like allowed, and what it means, right? Like, I love that you brought that up. Yeah.
My brother is very transphobic. I'm not trying to like vent to everybody right now,
Sure.
but he like I cut my hair like this. He hates it. He hates it so much that I find it so funny.
Mhm.
He's like, "What are you, a boy? Have your hair cut short now?" And then I know the second that like I tell him like that I am, he's like, "Oh, you're a girl. Look at your hair. Your hair's longer." I think that's
Yeah. Because what's the instant assumption when a girl has a buzzed head, short hair, whatnot? What's the instant assumption? She's a lesbian, right? Gay. You are gay for sure, right? Like, I imagine, and no offense, because you would have been right, right? But if I walk in the room and you see me, your instant thought is that I'm gay, right? Like, how many of you are like, "Oh, I have a gay teacher"? Like, I'm not offended, right? Like, I know this, right? Like, the way that I'm dressed, which I still feel so self-conscious that I have to wear shorts because of the stupid thing, right? Like, I've had to process it in therapy, people. Like I hate it, but I'm grateful because it's hot, right? But the instant assumption when you look at me is that I must be gay, right? And you're right, right? Like, and it matches a lot of the time, not always, because there are cultural norms, right? And it could be different from place to place, like gender and orientation. I mean, they're so intertwined. And the hate, sometimes just for something like short hair, the hate that can be there because you're not conforming to the prescription, right? Even if it makes you happy, you're not conforming. Yeah.
I've noticed, that like you said, short assumptions.
Yeah.
But then I've noticed for older women.
Yeah.
Short hair.
It's confusing then, right? Right? You ever met someone and you're like, I don't know, I don't know. It's confusing and it's upsetting, right? Like, it can be uncomfortable when you don't know. I met somebody and like they were in their 60s, short hair, and my instant thought was, oh, family, they're family, they're gay. Nope, right? Totally wrong, right? And then I was like almost upset about it, like misled me, right? Like there are these prescriptions that we follow, and they're often right, but sometimes with age comes a little bit more androgyny, and it can be a little harder to tell. But yeah,
I think it's really interesting what you were saying about like cultures because
yeah.
I think because we live in a multicultural society also,
Mhm.
you're always gonna be coming up against different people's expectations for genders. I mean, there's some cultures where like it's acceptable for women to be bald, but then there's some cultures where that's like really unheard of.
Right.
But like because we live in a multicultural society, like you're not gonna be able to please everyone.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately what I kind of think is that no matter what, you're not gonna please you're gonna not be able to please everyone. So like no, kind of what's the point?
So make yourself comfortable.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If you can't please everyone.
Exactly, yeah. But also I think it's really interesting because even though like I do think it's really a big thing to kind of like break free of like established norms and like do like express yourself in a way that makes you feel comfortable. It's really interesting how a lot of the time when we do that, we're still like it still derives somewhat from the norms,
Yeah.
but it's like we're doing it in our own way.
Right,
And it almost reminds me, like, this is kind of a weird example, but it almost kind of reminds me of like jazz, like how when jazz first like arose and was
yeah,
it was like it was playing with classical music,
right,
but it was doing its own thing and it was doing something that nobody had ever heard that was new, that was like playing with convention. So it's really like convention isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's just that you have to not be afraid to do your own thing with convention.
yeah, I love that, that's a great like analogy, and there's nothing wrong, I wanna be very clear too, like, there's nothing wrong with conforming to your gender, like, whatever your identity is, that's completely fine, whether it's feminine or masculine or changing, like, it could start one way and end another way at the beginning and end of the day, like, there's nothing wrong with that. But we get caught in that, like, people, we want them to fit into a box so badly, right? But we don't tend to fit neatly in boxes. Some people do, some people don't, right? Okay, so yesterday, I'm gonna share this with you. I had our first soccer practice yesterday, which was so hot and so uncomfortable, but that's a different story. Okay, but in our family, I'm deaf. I don't share that always, but like I'll share it with all of you. In our family, I go by deaf. Because I fit that role to a T, right? Like I literally, like I fit the stereotype of masculinity. I like football, right? I like a lot. I like beer, right? Like I like all of the like guy things, right? I have short hair. I dress like a guy. All my friends are guys. Like I fit the dad role. And honestly, like I kind of want to be here, right? So why not, right? But yesterday at practice, and I'm husband too, right? Husband and dad. So I get Father's Day in our house. And my wife gets Mother's Day. It works out perfect, right? Like it makes us happy, so who cares, right? Like, but yesterday at soccer, oh my goodness, right? And like it's hard because in our bubble, it's fun. But sometimes we go out and I forget that my bubble isn't the whole world, right? And like I don't expect other people to accept it, but like decency is nice, right? So yesterday my daughter Paisley, we're in the middle of practice. She's like, "Dad, do you need whatever?" It was a cone. "Dad, do you need me to bring a cone?" And everybody on that sideline was like, who is she talking to? Like you should have seen the look on their face, right? They all look out and they're like. Yeah, and I was like, "No, I'm good, thanks, Angel." And they're all like the look of like, oh my god, the look of horror. I had a girl leave with me after a practice. So, and I cannot help in my mind but think that they were connected. It could be for a million reasons. I'll never know. Okay, but the reaction from like several of the people, totally fine with it, like no reaction. But the look of horror on a couple of people's faces, personally, like it scares me, but I also love it. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm pushing you, like it makes me happy. But I feel very insecure about it. And then I get this message like last night, so-and-so has left your team. Okay? I can't help but wonder. Right. And so like my point is that gender is like a very fluid thing, but there are consequences for breaking like the traditional gender rules that we're talking about. And as much as I love it, like I hate it at the same time, right? Yeah.
It's really funny you say that because I remember last semester I went into a class and my name is Owen. I'm trans, but I'm not on testosterone, so I sound very feminine. So a lot of times people don't know what I am.
Okay.
And I remember last semester, the teacher was calling out attendance and she goes, "Oh," and I go here. And then this old guy who sits next to me, he slowly turned over with like this horrified look on his face. And I was like, "Hi."
Right. Right. Like,
yeah, like what am I supposed to do?
right. Right. And thank you like for being vulnerable and sharing that, right? Like those reactions, right, from other people. And there's always a part of me, and I'm sure a part of you too, that wants to be like, I could care less what you think. But we care, right? Like oftentimes we care, and it's hard when we like gender is complicated and it's a big political issue right now, sex versus gender. I really want you to understand that they're different things, even though they overlap, right?
It's like weird because like I think like the way it kind of like described like this, I think the best way to kind of describe like this whole like trans like panic to like conservatives or people like that is just like it's like kind of describing like sex first and like saying like, oh yeah, it's like sex is like this and this and this and it's like how did and then just ask me how did we ascribe all these character traits to it?
Yeah.
And that's where all this thing comes from. It's this contradiction between like a man should have these character traits even though like the only requirement is they have these sexual characteristics.
Yeah, they're different,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
like-
not everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. Yeah.
I kind of relate with this, like, I'm such an identify with a gender, very feminine. And I sometimes, I've never had a negative reaction to my femininity, but sometimes I'm in public or I'm gonna avoid public because not gay. I struggle because I'm worried about how people might react.
Sure.
No, I'm a big 6'4"
Mhm.
so, and I present myself masculine, so I start speaking and I have family mannerisms.
Sure.
You know, it's like, what if somebody has a negative reaction? Or what if I'm out in public with my boyfriend and his family, there's problems?
Yeah.
So I definitely struggle a lot. I don't hide it, but I struggle sometimes when I'm in public, expressing it.
Yeah, right, for sure. And again, thank you like for the vulnerability. There's another, yeah.
No, it was funny because I wanted to pick it up what you said over there. Because it's funny because in high school I had really short hair, like I guess you say a guy haircut, you know, and I used to dress very masculine too, like I would wear dickies and just big shirts and just, you know, stuff like that. And all the time people would be like, oh, excuse me, sir, and I'd be like, oh, hey. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, it doesn't offend me, like, you thought I was a boy, so what? Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like my brother, like, since like I'm pansexual and stuff like that, like my brother and I guess more masculine, he calls me little bro. Like he calls me his other brother. When he tells people, he's like, oh yeah, I have 2 brothers. And I'm just like, I mean, sure. I was like, I don't really care. So it's just funny because like, because you said like we try not to care and stuff like that. And it's true because like at the end of the day, it's like we do care, but at the end of the day too, it's kind of like it doesn't really matter. We're all just human beings, you know. So like I feel like it is what it is sometimes. And like sometimes it is kind of like out there and it does hurt sometimes, but I feel like sometimes at the end of the day we just have to like take it with a punch and just be like, it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's like and then I feel like some people also get scared to correct people, you know, and I feel like and it's okay to correct people. Like if someone misgenders you or something like that, I feel like, you know, some people get scared to be like, oh yeah, like you know, oh.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No, no, you're fine. Thank you. Very good.
No, but yeah, like someone will be like, you know, a little more feminine and they'll be like, oh yeah, you're a girl, and then be like, oh no, I'm a boy, you know? And
Yeah.
I feel like people get scared to do that, you know, and I feel like people, I'm not saying people should do it more, but I feel like, you know, people should, you know, have a little bit more confidence in that more just to get a little more comfortable with that because society is changing in that way.
Yeah, people apologize so desperately, right? Like, oh, I messed up. And it's okay.
It's okay, like you don't have to apologize, it happens all the time.
I'm always like, it's fine, right? Like, whatever. I've even gone the other direction. I was getting an MRI on my knee, and there's this older woman in there. She was so sweet to me. And she's all like, good luck, sir. And I was like, thank you. She liked me so much because she thought I was a guy. I didn't want to ruin it. Thank you. Well, I had to keep this possible boys to come work all over it. It's not really that big of a deal, but like, it is a big,
Yeah.
you know, it's just like kind of like the 2 clips. Like, there's both sides to it. Yeah.
I was gonna say like not to be trauma dump or anything, but like as a kid I had really short hair
Mm-hmm.
and everyone would call me a guy or something. And as a little kid that affects your view
It does.
and it hurts.
Yeah.
So I feel like
There is a hard side to this as well. Mhm.
that's what
It's important though. I've had teachers who hated me because I had short hair. Hated me. I mean, like failed me for no reason. Hated me. And I was like that straight A student. And I was like, why are you giving me an F? Like I did everything right. And the hate, you know, and the stereotypes and the reaction. So like there are a lot of consequences for breaking gender, right? Whether it's just a stereotype or an assumption or like discrimination and prejudice, right? So not to be light of it, it can be a very challenging thing. I mean, I'm glad you shared that too. Yeah.
So, I'm saying it was on your dad.
Mhm.
So do they even pronouns of she, her, or? I'm just wondering, just that I'm a girl and we're like thinking like they
Yeah.
call us mama and mommy, like how are we gonna differentiate that shit?
I laugh because pronouns are complicated in our eyes. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, so I really don't care, like, about the pronouns. So when my wife says he or his, like, I smile and it makes me happy, but if she says she or her, like, I'm fine with it. Like, the pronouns don't matter so much to me. but the one that really matters to me is dad. Like, so my mom will call me mom sometimes. Your mom wants you to do whatever. And my kids, bless them, will come be like, my mom's in the other room, you mean my dad? Right? But my mom has never, like, she cannot wrap her head around the fact that I'm dad and husband. Even though I've been dad and husband for 13 plus years in our house, right? Ever since my kids were born, we decided right off the bat, so we didn't want it to be confusing. But my pronouns, they're confusing, right? Like, and like, they're confusing to everyone, and I'll just be like, I don't mind what you call me, but please, I am dad and husband, right? But I think it's just being consistent, right? Especially because we have kids, like, but my kids will be embarrassed to call me down in front of other. My 13-year-old will like come up to me instead of like my 11-year-old yesterday, dad, no problem, right? But my 13-year-old, she wouldn't be young because of the reaction. Yeah.
I think it's just really interesting, like, what you were saying, like, with your mom, like, just not being used to that, because, like, I mean, it makes sense, like, when someone hasn't been around that environment and they're raised a way where it's just not on their radar,
Yeah.
like, it's hard, it's hard to constantly keep track. It's just like, for me, it's like, as long as you're approaching it in a place of like, love and understanding and like not wanting to like judge them too harshly.
Yeah.
And like I know this there's this one guy I work with, he's like in his 60s. He's like a man, right?
Yeah.
But there's like a couple other people that I work with who are trans, and he really tries.
Yeah.
He gets it wrong a lot. Like, but he tries.
Right.
And like, you know,
Yeah.
and like just I think that's really you know, as long as someone is like not being overly judgmental of other people and their decisions, like I think that's really beautiful.
I have no problem with people messing with us if they're trying and they come from a good place. My mom, again, not to, I use the phrase too, right? Not to trauma them, but my mom has never been accept me from their identity. It's not family things, right? So it bothers me. It bothers my partner, it bothers my kids, and it's a problem. But when people try, they mess up, they mess up. We're people, right? Like, I have said the wrong name, the wrong pronoun, the wrong everything a million times to people in my life. But I think when you have a good intention, like, it's different. Right? Sadly, I wish that were the case for my mom.
And just like, I don't know, just for me, it's like not trying to get other people to fit into your role.
Yeah.
Because it's not your city.
And I don't expect other people to accept me for who I am. I mean, that's they do, right? Like, I would love them to, but I'm not gonna force it on any of you or anyone that I know or the people on my soccer team. And like, bottom line, if that person left because they were uncomfortable, I'm glad they didn't. But I mean, I wish they would have given me a shot. Like, I took it personally. Like, I won't lie, I did. Right? And
I talk to you about it.
Yeah, like, I wish and like, the wild thing is, like, she was, like, neutral to me at practice. Like, why, you know? And they requested me. Like, it was the weirdest part of it all. I'm like, you requested, did you not ever hear her request? I thought they were requesting my partner. Like, I don't know. But, like, you know, it's hard not to have it all, like, so complicated. Yeah, good. Yeah.
And like everything that's happening with
Yeah.
they had a wait list for transgenders for getting surgeries, and they canceled all like the waitlist, like people were waiting for years.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the patients, like they're like getting requests for the list because he started so wide, I guess, and people are becoming more comfortable with like being needs there and like saying all of this stuff, and it's just like it's affecting them. So
Yeah.
it's just crazy how they need one person that is 2% around it in order to like say everything. Like, it's just
Yeah.
crazy.
It is, and it is, like I said, it's a huge political thing right now. The idea of sex versus gender, and people who are in positions of power not knowing what those terms mean, right? Like, I've watched so many TikToks of people like who are like in a legislative position talking about sex when they're actually talking about gender, or vice versa, or orientation, or like not even knowing, right? And so, like, I think the point is if we could make sure that we all know what these terms mean. That's my goal.
Yeah.
All of you is let's understand the terms and where they come from, because, you know, regardless of opinion, we all have our own opinion, and that's fine. right? But let's understand what we're talking about, right? To be clear, yeah.
Back to yours. My sister is like bisexual, she's been in love for a few 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother, is very accepting of me, is always accepting of me. And not only my grandmother, my mom, my aunt, who were all accepting of me,
Sure.
always knew I was gonna be gay, always gave me support. Now, when my sister came out and started dating them, and they were all like, that's weird. You know, like she's been boy crazy all her life. Now
Mhm.
she's all of a sudden a lesbian. And my grandma was on the phone for a little bit. And we were just talking for like a couple hours or something. And we were talking about my sister and brother, and she's like, I don't know, I don't think Kylie's gay. I don't know. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm not been in a lesbian relationship.
Just 3, I mean.
Like I said, people always know I was gonna be gay. I was really feeling kid. It was not shocking at all when I came out. But Kylie, she was very boy crazy. So she comes out, my mom, my aunt, my grandma, they're all talking, they're all like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah,
Not like a hateful way.
sure.
Or a homophobic way, but it's more so like.
It doesn't add up, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, like,
and for a lot of people, it doesn't add up. And it doesn't have to, is what I would like you to understand. It doesn't have to.
Yeah, it's like, I can definitely see that, like, I feel like there's stuff with like not really understanding about her being a lesbian, kind of understands, because it's like, well, it's like, you can easily kind of be confused when you see like someone just like kind of lust up for men for a long time, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden like be in a relationship of a completely different relationship. It's like, it's to the point where they feel like they're messing with you.
Right. And I kind of wish, like,
Yeah,
many of you
which
like
is-
assumed I was gay. Like, I kind of wish I wasn't, so I could break it, right? I'm not gonna think that, so I could break up with my wife for 22 years, so I'm like, I could prove a point, right? But like, it's hard, like, we wanted to add up, we wanted to fit neatly, we wanted to be in the
Yeah.
box, we want the, like, you were feminine, so you're gonna be gay, you're masculine, so you're gonna be gay. There are a lot of people who are feminine, like men, and are straight. My best friend, he is like the outwardly most masculine looking dude. Muscular, he works in construction, he's got a shaved head, he looks like the guy's guy. You start talking to him, he loves kittens, right? He's like the softest, sweetest guy, like, and I love him for it. Like, he doesn't match what he's supposed to, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then I have guys who are like the ultimate guys, and they're my friends, and I love their masculinity, and they line up perfectly. We're all over the place. Gender is a spectrum, okay? It doesn't have to be a box. Yeah.
I just think like I don't know. I just think it's important that like the distinction between sex and gender isn't really a new thing.
It's not. No,
like
yeah,
the,
not at all.
the actual Merriam-Webster definition of gender is the behavioral, cultural, or psychological traits typically associated with one sex.
Yes.
So it's like it's not like
The accepted definition.
yeah.
Yeah. Is
And
that
it's not like anybody's trying to necessarily like redefine these words. It's just like
the
it's just like
misunderstanding?
a new way of thinking about it, I guess. But it's not like yeah, I mean like it's distinct. Like there's for a while been that distinction between those things. And it's just it's like a lot of people I think would claim like, oh, it's like a completely new made up
Right.
thing. And I
No.
just think that's a little bit reductive because just because there's more freedom for something to exist and express itself doesn't mean it's a new thing.
Right. And the whole thing is reductive. I mean, honestly, like that we have to like define it down to boxes is reductive, right? But this hasn't been around for a very long time. Like back in the 70s, we came up with terms like androgyny, which we would now maybe call like trans and non-binary, or like a million offshoots of that. I mean, this is nothing, yeah.
This is mine on just this stuff is like new and like it's like confusing and everything. And I'm like very, very trans, but I don't really I don't like fit the mold for it. And my boyfriend is like very, very vocal with like the little kids that he works with, like about like, oh, I have like a boyfriend, whatever. And they know that I'm trans, and it
was not confusing for them
They
at
got it.
all. Like they like saw like the like then he's like, that's my boyfriend, and they're like, oh my gosh, like can you tell me more than like 6, 7, like the whole like I understand like all of the time, like these random texts on these places like tell your boyfriend hi or whatever, and then Molly's like, Mom, like it's not he's like it's not that.
Right, it's not, right? So again, I love it. I love that you're all so like open and willing to share, like, and just to throw a wrench in it again. Okay, once you understand how they're different, you can understand how they're connected, right? So they're separate, but they're connected. They are very connected to each other. One drives the other. Your sex is going to shape your gender. Okay, like one is set biologically, it may or may not shape it. It depends on the person, right? So it's important to understand like how we come to think of ourselves as male or female, masculine or feminine, or non-binary or other, or whatever, however, trans, however we identify, right, is very much starting from the moment of conception. Conception, egg and sperm meet, genetics start right then and there. Okay, so your biological processes that shape all of this, your chromosomes are set right off the bat. Whether you are XX, XY, or other happens at the moment of conception. And then what that does is it shapes what gonads and sex glands develop for you, which shape then your like anatomy, which then can shape your hormones, which shapes the way you feel, which can affect your behavior. It all is connected to each other. Okay, so from the moment of conception, like that happens, and you can tell, right? And having had 3 children, the reactions of, and then the first thing we want to know, right? Is it a boy or a girl? That's like the first thing everyone always asks when you have children, and it starts here, right? But then the gender comes from your sexual identity. And I have this little, it's like super short video, and it's so old, but I spent 4 hours yesterday trying to find a better one that I didn't like any of them. So I'm going to play it for you anyway. Because I think it's still helpful. It shows you that like male, female, like chromosomal differentiation. And it's not exciting at all, but I think it's helpful. So I'll play it for you anyway. Have I undersold it enough? Okay, it's really chromosome is what determines whether someone's chromosomes are XX or XY. There are some rare combinations where people don't have XX or XY. They can be other, and they're we kind of mentioned those a little bit later. But it starts this whole process. That moment of conception leads to anatomy, which leads to gonads, which leads to hormones, which leads to expression. It's connected, even though they're different. Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, so, this may be like a little topic, but I always call myself female and others, other women female, but then, I'm kind of a girl who was very offended when I called her female. Because, they're like, you should call me a woman, so, you know, maybe it's like that. I was just wondering, like, what is that?
It could just be personal preference.
Yeah.
I mean, like some people prefer female versus woman versus like feminine, like, I mean, and it might be the wrong term, but it might be what they prefer. I had a friend in college, he was a straight guy, like straight masculine dude, he preferred to be called a lesbian. He's like, I like women, I'm lesbian. I'm like, you are a guy who likes women, you're straight. But that's what he wanted, so that's what I called him, right? Like, yeah, legitimately. And I think he was just being a punk about it, but I kind of appreciated and saw the point of like breaking the terms. So, I mean, sometimes it's just preference of what somebody prefers, and you might not know that, you know, and like, it might not make sense, but if that's what someone prefers,
Right.
I try and go, right? Even if I'm like, you are not a lesbian. But okay. All right, Josh, I'll call you out. All right, yeah.
I think that, like, the word, female is, like, very offensive sometimes, because a lot of misogynistic men like to use that word, to put down women.
It can be, yeah, right.
That's what I see, that's like the only time I see female being used.
Sure. Is when it's said in like
Yeah,
a kind of condescending derogatory, yeah, and that could be part of it too. So it could be preference, it could be culture. And that's where it gets complicated. Everyone has their own preference, their own culture they belong to, and so on. Right? So I put these up here. This is a big list of hormones. Okay, you're gonna see these again all semester long. We'll talk about hormones as they are relevant to, so when we get to male and female anatomy, like next week, we'll talk about several of these, but I just want to introduce them And then we'll talk more about the specific ones when we get there. So don't stress about them too much for now. But all of these different hormones play a big role in our anatomy development, in our like sex characteristics, and then also sometimes our gender, whether or not we are producing sperm, whether we're having menstrual cycles, they play a big role in a lot of things. Our sex drive, right? Our interest or lack of interest. So androgens typically are the male hormones. Anyone know what the main male hormone is? I mentioned it earlier. Testosterone, right? Women possess testosterone too. Okay, women have possession of testosterone and estrogens. Men have possession of both as well, right? We both have both running through our system. So androgens play a big part in sex drive. Testosterone is thought to really correlate to our interest in sex, which is why stereotypically, right, men are more interested in sex than women. It doesn't always hold up. That is a stereotype, but it is thought to be related to the presence of more testosterone. Is that a?
Yeah, sorry, I was on.
I don't mind. I mean, I'm glad you're all talking this, right?
Did you know that?
Yeah, I mean, we go through different things, right? And it might be because we're neurovinded, where we are more fertile. And so you need a higher sex drive to engage in sex to get pregnant, right? From like an evolutionary standpoint, when you're ovulating, your testosterone levels are a little higher in order to promote sexual activity.
Yeah, that's been, sounds kind of
Yeah, that's right.
Also,
How dare you menstruate but have masculine hormones?
Right.
But yeah, right? Like we all have different degrees of this within us. Yeah.
So you mentioned that the term androgynous, like, kind of started to come into use in the 70s, which
Yes.
I didn't know that's really,
Yeah.
and it's derived from androgens, like directly.
So it comes from andra and gyna. Andra meaning male, gyna meaning female.
Okay.
So androgynous. It was developed by a woman named Sandra Bem.
Mhm.
She was the first one to coin this term androgynous, make it popular, I'll say, 1973 or like early 70s. She made an instrument called the Bem Sex Role Inventory. Hate that it's called that because she's measuring gender, not sex, but back in the 70s, right? So she coined the term androgynous as a combination of masculine and feminine. Andra and gyna.
That just seems like a term that's so much older than that.
Yeah,
It just seems like
Yeah.
something that we've always been.
it was around before she popularized.
Okay.
And it's kind of an old term now. People don't tend to use it a lot. They use like trans or like gender queer or non-binary are way more commonly used than androgynous.
Mhm.
I used the word androgynous the other day. My kids were like, "What?" I don't know.
I think that it's like, when I would describe someone as androgynous, is if I see someone I genuinely have no idea.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
what their gender would be, I'm like, oh, they look androgynous.
I think of it like what your example was, where like I was sitting there in my MRI like waiting room, and there's this older woman in her 70s, 60s, 70s, some 6, 7, right? She was up there somewhere, right? Oh, sorry, my kids like ruined me with this stuff. She was older, short hair, super like nondescript, not feminine or masculine, kind of androgynous, ambiguous. That's how I tend to think of it. But yeah, that term's been around since it's been around a long time, but it popularized in the set. So androgens are male hormones, but women possess them too. And estrogens are the female hormones, and men have estrogen as well, right? Plays a big role in the menstrual cycle, which we'll talk about when we get to that part of anatomy. But those are the two big clusters that we have. Yeah.
What's the difference?
Gender queer is somebody who can kind of go back and forth, right? So maybe they don't prescribe to either gender. I have a great example of it at the end. So next class, you'll see it. But like Ruby Rose, if you know who she is, she identifies as gender queer, where she could be more masculine some days, more feminine other days. She doesn't pick one. She can go either way. Like, yeah, and it's good. So non-binary and gender queer, they're different, but they're kind of similar. Like non-binary is someone who doesn't prescribe to like the masculine, feminine binary. You have to be one or the other. They break it. I would identify myself as non-binary. Like I don't clearly fit into one or the other. Gender queer is kind of like I can do both, right? Like, and I go back and forth depending on where I'm at. If that
Yeah, I see it.
yeah, but people use them interchangeably to make it confusing, right? Like, so, yeah.
Oh yeah, back on like the other thing of like how like saying like just like kind of like thinking about just androgynous people. It's like there's like this one moment where I was looking at someone and it was like I had a hard time kind of determining like what their gender was, and then it got to a point where it's just like, you know what, screw it, they're just that person.
I love that,
They're
right?
just that person. Like
You are you.
fuck, like just F it, just
Yep.
F whatever gender, fuck whatever gender is you're what.
I love that you had to warm up to say that. I love it, right? But it's true. It's true, right? Like you are who you are. Okay, a couple other ones here. There are lots, and again, they're coming back. Progesterone also plays a big part in pregnancy and in ovulation, in the menstrual cycle, really a big part in pregnancy. We'll talk a lot about that when we get to units there. GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, comes from the hypothalamus. It's kind of like a master hormone. It plays a big role in causing the pituitary gland to release other hormones during puberty, for example. Again, these will come back. FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, plays a big part as well in the follicular development or the egg development when women are menstruating. So we see that that's there during menstruation, for example. Luteinizing hormone released by the pituitary gland plays a role in testosterone production for men and ovulation for women. So when women are ovulating, if they're testing to see if they're ovulating, they're testing for the presence of LH. There's this surge of luteinizing hormone before an egg is released. And that's one way you can track, like if you're trying to get pregnant or trying to avoid getting pregnant. You can work either way. Yeah. We'll talk about them all again, right? I'm so just kind of introducing them, and then you'll see them all again, and they'll be on there, but not necessarily from this slide, if that makes sense. Prolactin plays a role in the production of milk after childbirth. So when women lactate and are able to breastfeed, a big part of that is prolactin. And then oxytocin, such an interesting hormone. This will come up a bunch. Sometimes called the cuddle hormone. It's released when we cuddle with someone, when we have physical contact with someone, when we reach orgasm, it's released. And it's also released during breastfeeding between a mother and a baby. It promotes connection and cuddling, and is released in a lot of different circumstances. Really interesting hormone. Well, it'll come back a few times. Yeah, Esther.
Yeah, this is for like FS.
Mhm.
Oh, no, GnRH. So look for
Not necessarily. So intersex would have been the moment of conception, right? But there are a couple of kind of rare conditions where during puberty, like the hormones shift. Rare, like, I forget the island. There's like an island in a culture in the Philippines that's really, really rare. But like somebody will be female, and then when they hit puberty, their testicles descend and they're actually male. Like wild, insanely rare. But it happens a lot within this tiny community because of the genetics being passed along. So it can play a role in puberty, but it would be more that intersex is typically set at that moment of conception. The hormones in puberty can like kind of promote what has been lying dormant until that moment, if that makes sense.
Like, for the island.
Yeah.
So they, or, you know,
Yeah, so this would trigger the release of testosterone, which would cause their testicles to descend. I mean, it's really rare, really wild, but there's all sorts of little rare
yeah,
conditions like that that can happen. Yeah,
Keep going.
yeah.
Wow. How do you live in this environment?
Mm-hmm.
Girl.
Yeah. It's a great question. And hormones you can test for in the blood. Okay, right. So you can do a blood test to see where people have these things, or some of them, like LH, is a urine test. It'll show up in the urine. Same with like a pregnancy test, it's going to test for hormones as well. Versus like neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin. We can't test for those. That one's more like trial and error. But these ones we can actually test for through like blood and urine and so on. And so a lot of like controlled studies, a lot of correlations that we've kind of inferred over time. There's a lot we still don't know, right? And so it's not perfect, but kind of generalizations that we know from blood tests, urine tests, and so on. Is there another hand? Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I just have a question, like, I know there have been cases where like, a woman can have like a really, really high amount of testosterone.
Mhm.
Like, would that be considered intersex in that case?
Not technically intersex, right? There's people who possess biological attributes, so anatomy.
Yeah.
Typically, we define intersex as like someone who maybe has mixed anatomy of masculine or like male and female anatomy, right?
Yeah.
Because hormones are all over the place. Like some women have more testosterone than others, and like that's not considered abnormal.
Yeah.
But it can lead to things like increased facial hair
Yeah.
or increased like sex drive, menstrual cycle irregularities. So it can lead to problems, but it's not always problematic, if that makes sense. So
Like, I-
typically intersex is like a mix of anatomy.
I know there was one example where there was like this Indian like track star who like actually tested really, really high for testosterone and
mhm.
wouldn't let her
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah, it gets complicated sometimes in competitive like sports, Olympic sports where they will test for different hormones that could give an advantage or disadvantage. It is such a gray area because testosterone on its own might not be enough, but it could also be something that you could abuse. Like you could take synthetic testosterone to get stronger and more muscular.
Well, that's
It's complicated.
Is if you're a woman who's working out, you might even like grow a beard.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So steroids can also affect all of that as well, right? And that's where it starts to get really complicated because you don't want someone to have a competitive edge over someone else.
Yeah.
You know, if that even gives it like, and then you get this whole like discussion of trans like identities or like orientations within like competitive sports. It gets messy. It really does. I wish there was like an easy answer, but it's messy. Right? Intersexed, the old term was hermaphrodite. We don't use that term anymore, right? It's like a condescending term now, but that was the original term for this, right? Based off of Hermaphrodite, the Greek deity, who was thought to possess both pieces of anatomy or both like sets of anatomy. But we use the term intersexed. And I'm not going to go into these because they're fairly rare, but I might ask you a couple questions about them. So what I'll ask you on the exam is what are the two categories of atypical differentiation and give me an example from each. Okay, so make sure you take a look at them in the book. They're rare, but there are people who are born with things like Turner syndrome or Klinefelter syndrome, DHT deficient men, right? There are hormonal conditions which can affect your sex and chromosomal conditions which can affect your sex. Kind of like we were talking about earlier with the like GnRH during puberty. So take a look at that in the book and kind of read through it on your own. But I'm not going to go into it because it's not super common. It's a little bit more rare. Okay? Any other like thoughts, comments, questions, anything for now? Anything else at the moment? Yeah.
What were the questions you had?
So what are the two categories which are listed here? And give me an example of each. Okay. So, and again, all of your exams, when we get there, they'll be open note, open book, and I'll give you a study guide, right? But that would be one that like I'm not going to cover. I might ask you. It'll be on the study guide, of course, as well. All right. We've been talking about this a ton, right? So we have biology, been covering biology, but our social learning is then what shapes our gender, right? And we have all these stereotypes. We've been talking about these the whole class, right? Like wonderful like conversation related to that. There are stereotypes of what it means to be male or female. These shared beliefs are kind of blanket statements about a particular group. And sometimes these fit to a T, and other times they don't, right? Or maybe you have some, but not others. I love this, right? The guy brain, sex, beer, food, sex, TV, football, sex. The woman's brain, love, talk, security, babies, respect, shoes, right? Gotta add the shoes in there, right? Or over here, right, where we have stereotypes here. There are so many gendered stereotypes, right? And like, again, they can be true or not, but they shape the way that we view people, right? When my wife got pregnant, okay, we found out we were having a dog the first time. We actually had twins for like a day, and then we ended up with one. We joked that she ate her twins, right? It's like a joke in our house. You ate your twins, she was hungry, right? So I was hungry. We found out we were having a dog. And all of a sudden, it was like the pink balloon, right? Like everybody gave us pink and white. Or if they were like trying We got like cream colored, you know, like if they were trying to be neutral. And so we decided we were gonna paint the nursery like green. We went for like a woodland theme, Winnie the Pooh. It was super sweet. Like we painted this big, beautiful tree. But it was so interesting from like someone who's studying gender. The second we found out we were having a girl, pink, right? My daughter, on her first birthday, right, she was obsessed with Mickey Mouse. It's called a Micka the Mouse. Micka the Mouse. So I love my Micka the Mouse. Like, oh, it was so cute. She sounded like a little gangster. So we sent out, everything was Mickey themed, right? The invitations, Mickey, decorations, Mickey, everything Mickey. She hated Minnie Mouse. Minnie Mouse was gross. I don't like Minnie Mouse. She'd go around yelling at Minnie Mouse, ew, you know, like, and I was like, I don't like her either, right? Like, not sure I like Mickey, but Minnie Mouse, no, right? So everything Mickey, okay? All of her friends showed up to the party. Every single present that she opened was Minnie Mouse.
Oh.
Every one, I had the same reaction. Same reaction. I was like, oh, come on, why is this fool in here? It's like, I returned so much of it, right? And the wildest part was the disappointment. I'm like, she's one, right? So like, didn't hide her disappointment in very well at one, like, bless her, right? She's like, yeah, I like it now. In front of everyone. But everything that she got was Minnie because she's a girl. And so she was supposed to be Minnie. I treat all, you know, right? But the wild thing, after getting everything Minnie, my daughter became obsessed with Minnie Mouse. Everything was then about Minnie Mouse because that's what she got. But the invitations, the theme, the cake, I picked the cake, right? Of course, I got two, right? Why not? One chocolate, one white. I always get two because I have twins. I need one of each, right? Like always. But everything was Minnie, right? And that's where we get these stereotypes, right? Like you find out what the gender is. I'm going to give you everything. Thank you for eating this, right? I'm going to give you everything that gender. Okay. And so these stereotypes are really pervasive. We've been kind of talking about the whole time, and they connect really like strongly to where we learn gender from, right? And so these things are very interconnected. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna talk about this. My sister just gave birth,
Okay.
and her husband is the only way I could explain it is he's hyper fixated on the Bible.
Okay.
Like, and he reads the baby the Bible. She's like 2 months.
Okay.
And it's very like stereotypical, and I just like it's like kind of sad to see because like I just like know that this child's gonna grow up in a very stereotypical. You're a girl, you like girl things.
Sure.
You don't like guy things, and it's just like religion plays like not saying all religion. I'm just saying his type of Christianity that
Sure.
is very restricted and hate.
Okay. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with like being religious or reading the Bible, but it's when the hate comes in like it's tricky, right?
Yeah.
Because like every family's different, right? Like we're not super religious, but some of my family is really religious, right? And like that's fine, but where the like narrow-minded hate comes in is where it starts to be problematic.
Yeah, it's like
Talks about how gay people sin and how whatever's in your pants, your gender. And it's just really sad to see because I know this baby's gonna grow.
Sure. Yeah. And hopefully they have enough other like influences around them to help balance it. Right. I mean, in a beautiful world, we all like accept each other for who we are. That's not always how it is. I mean, yeah, it's hard to see sometimes, right? Yeah.
Put together the I believe in the Bible. And he found religion. And like I was very open to the it was not secret. And then he was able to tell me 2 hours straight about the word hell. So I saw it was random. But it definitely it was very hateful. The way he really apologized that I didn't do it that way. I told him what way we traveled into it.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's hard. They become intertwined sometimes, right? And so that's where we'll pick up next time, right? Some of these things, whether it's religion or the media, right? Or our parents or our peers or modeling, we learn gender and what's acceptable or not acceptable from a lot of different sources. Okay, and whether like they're open or closed or somewhere in the middle, it's all over the place, but we learn them one way or the other from a lot of different things. So I think what I'll do, I'll stop here. Okay, and then we'll pick up with this when I see you on, not on Monday, but I know, but on Wednesday. Okay, I have some extra Oreos up here from a previous class if you want one on your way out. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you all next week. Yes, please, please, please. Save me from them, because if you don't eat them, I'll eat them. So you've all done a great job. There was the Oreo personality
Yeah.
test. Yes, yes. Look, you know exactly what it's.
Thank you.
Bye, have a good one. Okay. You too, thank you. I wanted to thank you for being so open. Oh, thank you, you too. Thank you.
I never like talk about my identity in other classes because I'm always judged for it. It feels like I have another color class. And my name is Ellen. They're like, oh yeah, she, and I don't have the courage to like tell anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
So this class feels like a very safe space. And I
Good.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
because I have not always been received well for doing that, and so I appreciate you sharing that, and I'm glad that you feel comfortable doing it.
Thank you so much. I look forward to next class.
Thank you too, thank you too.
So I went to ELS
Okay, great, so you,
and Melissa walked in like, she worked the openings, but
and remind me of your name again.
Joel.
Joel, okay.
Yeah. And what access, I had an IEP in high school,
Okay,
and IEP in high school, I needed to get help. I didn't know how to,
okay,
but I don't have any